Good morning. Um, so I just woke up. It is about 6:30 now. Um, and it's just kind of hitting me in waves. I was up a little bit late last night for me. I was talking to one of my Facebook friends and I needed someone to talk to. And I'm still trying to process this. I wish I could get through to my primary care doctor's office because that's kind of, I think they would be able to assist with this issue and maybe solve some problems. I tried to call them just now and they're not open. They were like, "Is it a life-threatening emergency?" And I was like, "Well, it's definitely life-threatening, but you know, is this like a heart attack? No. It's, so I've got to wait until the office opens, and that's frustrating. I ended up making my decision based on who's on duty. And I don't know the doctor that's on duty, so that they're not going to be able to help. And so kind of my next step is, speaking with a primary care doctor. And the more I think about it, the more ridiculous this reaction is that the oncologist is having. Because I had not had my heart checked. And, you know, she was mad at me for having my stress test. And she was mad at me for getting treated for an antibiotic infection, getting treated for a MRSA infection. And those are red flags and everything. But that's not what I'm here to talk about, actually, because I decided to go nuclear on certain family members, and sometimes you got to do that. I had a friend once post on Facebook that if he found out he only had a certain amount of time to live, that he had a hit list. I am not that kind of a person, but there are some people that need to be put in their place. And that is what I have started doing, and it feels good. I have some relatives, at least I have been told that they're related to me. I have a theory about that, but we're not even going there about that one. But we're not going to go there about that. So, I went on Facebook and I put a post on Facebook and let everybody know I decided to air the laundry because they make such a show of what good citizens they are and how much they contribute to the community around them and how generous they are and everything. And I said I want to give a big shout out to that branch of the family who has never made a phone call to me while I've been sick, and they have never sent me a get well card, and They especially have never offered me one single ride to chemo or the surgery that could have saved my life. And I named them my name. I tagged every single one of them, whether or not we're still friends on Facebook. Now, I know Karma has gotten one of them because I'm pretty sure that I saw him at the cardiologist's office the other day, and this big robust bearer of a man has oxygen tubes in his nose. So he's not doing so well. And this is quite recent. So let him be angry. Let him be angry. I came out there after I already was starting to get sick from cancer. I came out, it was events. But he couldn't be bothered to pick up a phone and see how I was doing. Let everybody know what kind of phonies they are. So, one of them gave me the excuse that she's working 70 hours a week. Yet she had the time to go hit an estate sale and buy a junk typewriter. She had that kind of time on her hands with her 70-hour work schedule. So let everybody know what they're like. And I know what the rest of the family thinks of them. We think they're trashy. We do. There's always that one branch of the family that nobody really wants to hang out with at weddings and stuff like that. They're that branch. And, they think that by doing these little fundraisers and stuff like that, that they're elevating themselves and everything, and what they're really doing is like trying too hard, I think. And it's weird. It is really weird, and just the rest of the family is like, who does that stuff? They're not relatable or anything. Like, the rest of the family is like, we're real. We talk about, we're kind of intellectual, and I don't want to get the camera on that. We talk about history and, in comic books. There a surprising amount of my cousins are into that stuff, and when in cars, everybody loves fancy cars in my family, or any kind of cars and stuff, and the food. If you have a Eurasian family, you love the food and cooking it, and who has the best little satay, which is like it's Indonesian barbecue, and there's definitely like it's amazing stuff. It's the they look like shish kebabs, but it's like a peanut and spicy. Is really good. I'm allergic to peanuts, but I know how to make it with other stuff that tastes like peanuts. But that's what my family's like. We have these, like, buffets, and and the small talk is about other stuff, and, and there's a lot of gossip about who did what back in the 1950s. And I know an amazing amount of stuff about people I've never met. And my mother dated one of the Trumps back in the 50s, and it did not work out. And I've got a whole story about that. That's I grew up hearing that name, and and there's just like, you know there's all this gossip, and so and so did this and so did that, so and so got sick and had to go to the hospital or whatever it is, and they were sick for a long time, and then people rode their bicycles there, and there's all this that, and and then there's these freaks that are having some kind of a fundraiser, um, for a charity, and they're always doing that. And it's these people that can't be bothered to pick up the phone and say, gee, I'm sorry you have cancer. We live in the next town over. Do you need anything? Or just freaking, I'm sorry you have cancer. That really sucks. Can't be bothered to do that. So, yeah, I called them out on it on Facebook publicly. And one of them's mad, but guess what? He already blocked me. He can't do anything about it. So he put a little angry face on it. Well, oh well, he's angry. That was the intended result. What's he going to do about it? Come over and shoot me? I don't have that much longer to live. Letting me angry. Come over here huffing and puffing and wheezing with that little oxygen tube dangling out of his nose. He's not so big and bad anymore. I already know about that thing. I saw him in the doctor's office the other day. Not so big and bad. Big, tough Marine. So people will be dealing with my wrath. I kept quiet about people. I am sorry about that light. I've been keeping quiet about people for decades and being nice, and I can be really nasty and vicious, and once in a while it comes out, and I will let people know what I think of them. But for the most part, I am nice, and I've been nice because a lot of times I have to be nice. But I have 0 Fs left. No matter what transpired yesterday, I understand what's going on with my body. And the truth is, whether or not they're able to remove that thing, whether or not I get a different doctor, it's bad. And I knew that before I had the appointment because of the size of the tumors. They're big. When I saw the description of it in the CT results, I knew that was not good right there. That was when I was like, I might not make it. And actually hearing that from the doctor, that was, sometimes when people are mad, the truth comes out. When the doctor's trying to talk you into doing the surgery and everything, they're not going to tell you, oh, you're going to die anyway. They're trying to sell you a service. Yeah, when they don't like you, they're going to tell you the truth. She wanted me to come in there with a MRSA infection, with a heart murmur, not knowing whether that heart murmur was life-threatening or not, and cut me open and try to take out 2 5-inch tumors out of me. She was just gonna try it anyway. There was no window of opportunity on that. She was just gonna try it because that's what she does. She just barrels in there and tries to do stuff like that. She's not that good. She's she is one of the few OBGYNs that stayed here with the environment going on here in Florida. Um, if her name was, how do I put this delicately? If her name was Gutierrez or Sanchez or um, Castro or something like that, I probably would trust her a little bit more. But it's not. And with the environment going on, you know, I trust my Venezuelan doctor a whole lot because I know why she's living here. If I was a doctor and I had those kind of marketable talents, I definitely would have been out of here a long time ago. And if I was an OBGYN, I sure would not be practicing here in Florida. I would not. So not with what is going on, i- i- not risking jail and everything, you know, and that makes me wonder, you know, why? And she asked me, "Why are you here at the appointment?" And I have been wondering that very same thing about her from day one. Why is she here? That stuff I wonder about. But my mind is kind of going back and forth and zigzagging and everything. And it was just, I keep wondering about that, and she's angry because I had a MRSA infection and I had to get approved by a cardiologist. She's angry with me over that. But yeah, people are gonna find their day of reckoning. People that have treated me badly and they thought I didn't catch on to it, or that I'm some kind of a doormat that just put up with it, they're gonna find out that I was being nice. And they're gonna find their little snide remarks over the years were remembered because I have a very good memory. Every little comment that they made will come back on them. And I'm just going to use an example because this is one that already came up. And this is something that already happened. And this was just somebody that was useless. A useless, horrible, racist individual that already got her comeuppance about a year ago. She was posting some garbage on Facebook about Asians eating dogs. And so I went off on her. I was like, do you realize that I am part Indonesian? And I find that very offensive. This was my lab partner in AP biology in high school. I was like, and this is not me being like woke versus a Trump supporter. I'm really good friends with so and so doesn't go around saying that kind of stuff. You know, this is this is me telling you I find those kind of remarks personally offensive. And you know, And I still remember what you said about such and such in high school because such and such is a lesbian. And that was very homophobic. And I didn't say anything at the time. And I remember that kind of says something about you, you know. And I would say stuff in high school because we were all little jerks in high school that would, we said stuff about PE teacher, you know because we're Gen X was rotten in the 80s. We were rotten little kids. And you know, the 90s were different, but in the 80s we were little brats and teenagers are punks, but and no generation is immune. I mean, millennials are bullies to their own. You know, people grow up. And I would hope that if any of my peers are watching this, I would hope that they realize that I have matured since 1985. I've changed since then. But she told me something that told me that this girl that I'm talking about, her name was Sherry. And I'm not going to say her last name, but because there's a lot of Sherrys out there. But she told me something told me there was something a little more personal, vindictive, and hateful about her own feelings about this classmate that I was like, you really hate that girl. And why? Well, no, I didn't wonder why. I was like, you really hate her just because it's because she's gay, isn't it? And I was thinking, I didn't say it, but I was going to try to get it out of her. And I was like, why is she gross, Sherry? Why? And she's like, oh, you don't need to know, but she's just gross. So I hope you beat her in the election. And you know, I ran for student body vice president, and I did not care about this at all. I just wanted to put it on my transcript that I ran for office. And I was told I could put it on my transcript as long as I ran. I had zero interest in it. I didn't even prepare a speech. And everybody in student government knew I didn't care about it. I was like, I was the one that raised my hand. I was like, um, now I just want to clarify. I get to put this on whether I win or lose, right? And they're like, yes. So I doxed myself. You can put that on there as long as you run. And I was like, okay, and that was my thing. I would run for office and, just a run. And so I could put it that I was a leader and ran for office. And I was trying to pad that transcript, with everything. I joined all kinds of clubs, never showed up meetings. The only ones that I cared about were drama club and Spanish club, but I was a member of a whole lot of them, and well, I didn't even really show up for drama club, but I was a member of a bunch of clubs, yearbook and newspaper and all that. I didn't bother with any of that stuff. Um, and so she was like, "Well, I got you a bunch of votes in the election." I was like, "I didn't care about that election. That was a joke." And I was like, "And you were over there saying those horrible things about that other girl. Why did you think she was gross? Was it because she was gay?" And she was like, "I never said anything bad about gay people." I was like, "Yes, you did. What was the reason you thought she was gross? She wasn't dirty or anything like that. What was it? Come on, spit it out. And then she wouldn't say it. She kept saying, "My best friend's gay." I'm like, every every woman has a gay friend. That doesn't prove anything. That's like a given. I mean, like, even in Rob Roy, we all know Alistair was gay. But on and on. And so I knew that Sherry got high the day before the AP exam, and she was hungover and everything, and got a 2 on the exam. Which is dumb. Why even bother taking the exam if you're stoned? Why even bother? You spend the entire year taking that class and preparing for this exam so you don't have to take the class in college. It saves you a few $1,000s. And you pay $50, and you save a few $1,000s in college, and you get college credit for it. That's the purpose of it. And then you start out with some college credit. That's the purpose of it. So she got a 2 on the exam, and we were all snickering about that we all went through this course, and we were like, people are like, "Yeah, I got 3," and I was like, "I got a 4," and I think somebody else got a 4, and she was like, "I got a 2," and so I kept calling her 2 out of 5. I was like, 2 out of 5 for effort, 2 out of 5 for achievements in life, and I just kept on wailing on her about that, the 2 out of 5. Because she went on disability probably when she was in her 30s, and she was a nurse for a while. They're always nurses. And by the way, I know she came out of the closet when she was younger. I have little spies. I always do. The most homophobic ones always are, but I didn't even go there with that, because that would have given her an excuse for being a jerk. I needed to, you know, she was just, there was something extra mean about how she was treating that girl. It wasn't just the self-hatred, projecting itself and all that. She was being a bully to that girl. And it maybe they kissed each other, and she just really hated that girl or something. I don't know. I kind of don't want to think about those two kissing each other, to be quite frank. That's, mm-mm, no, no. But, that is, I just wailed on her, and I put the conversation in there, and I blocked out her name, and I was like, you can figure out who this is if you analyze it. You can figure it out. And she was just a freaking bully. But I wailed on her, and a racist and homophobic. And so, you know, I don't like that shit. I don't like it. And I don't put up with it. And that, there are people that I don't particularly care for who make a big to do out of how progressive they are and everything, and that's a different thing. They haven't done anything to anyone I care about. They haven't done anything outrageously offensive to me. They just are like kind of boorish or whatever. So whatever, it doesn't bother me and stuff. But that one, she was outrageously offensive, and just an ugly person. So I just wailed on her, and I will do that. The people that have deeply offended me, and that is the kind of a person that I am. I will tear people apart when they are like that, you know. And right now, I was just told that I have about 6 months to live, and I am a mean ENTJ. I am I've been very upfront. I tell people sometimes that I'm like Heather Duke on Heathers, if you've ever seen that movie. And Heathers has a vulnerable side. I mean, Heather Duke has a vulnerable side. Heather Duke is also mean and catty. She's a mean girl. I very much related to that character. And Heather Duke was not the one that was going around killing people. It was Veronica. Heather Duke could cut people on the inside where it really hurt. She said something really mean to one of the other Heathers. I can be like that. It doesn't bother me. If somebody has it coming like that, sometimes I can do that. And sometimes maybe when they don't have it coming, but usually they had to do a lot to get me to that point. And the other Heather in that movie did do some pretty awful stuff before Heather Duke went after. Um, and right now I'm thinking about people that I dislike, and there's people that I have had to be nice to in life, and I am tired of being nice to them. And that little nest of relatives, the trashy ones, at least I have been told that they are related to me. Um, they were at the very top of my list, and they have been dealt with. Oh dear, they don't know where I live because they never came to visit me. Hmm. Well, what are they going to do? They're angry. They're mad. Oh well. And they blocked me on Facebook. So, again, they did see the post. Um, I get along with most people, and there's definitely a pile of poop out there that thinks that I'm oblivious to this stuff, and they're gonna find out, you know. Um, but that was the biggest one. There's some people, that they're on my block list on Facebook, but I may come after them. A lot of them are dead already anyway, so you know, I don't really need to do anything. There was one, he was dating a friend of mine, and he sent me the nastiest message in there, called me all kinds of names and everything. And my friend was like, "Hey, remember so and so?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember him. He sent me a really ugly message. You're not dating him again, are you?" And she's like, "No, he died." And I was like, "Oh, good riddance. Now he's in hell." So, it feels actually quite good to go after people like that. So if you got somebody in your life that you went to school with that Mark Zuckerberg has decided you should bring back into your life because you went to the same high school and you cut out of your life for a reason, and then you're being recommended that you add them as a friend, remind them why you didn't like them all these years. Remind them, you know, that person that posts about Asian people eating dogs, that person that came up to you and said that your mutual friend who is gay is disgusting just because they're gay, that person. Remind them that they have a 2 out of 5 for effort in life. It feels really good to tell people like that off, especially if they're already on disability in their early 30s. And that is my thought for the day, and I have 0 Fs to give at this point, so I am really, um, I'm dangerous right now. I am. Um, I may say anything, and I'm on every social media thing um, except for the really stupid ones. So I don't need to be on those anyway. So have a wonderful day, and I still haven't told a lot of people yet that what I was told yesterday. I kind of knew it, and I may post again later today about some spooky stuff that happened last week. So have a good day. Bye.